welcome to the Fenland Chatter. I'm producer Dave and we're joined by our usual co-host Amanda Carlin.
Hello, producer Dave.
Hello Amanda. Today is Monday the 11th of May 2020 and this is episode 18. And we're getting quite a few episodes now. We've done really well.
We have, haven't we, to keep going? Very tall.
Yeah. So how are you? How was your weekend, your VE weekend?
VE weekend was wonderful. It really was. People really joined in and you could hear music and see people enjoying themselves. It was really emotional at 11 o'clock when we did the 2-minute silence. I actually had a few tears. My husband and I did things a little bit differently in that at 11 o'clock. We'd got, you know how you get the poppy crosses with the poppies on for remembrance that you can put into the ground. So we'd got some and we put those into the ground at the front of the house. And we got some poppies to scatter and we scattered those, but then had the 2-minute silence. I don't know why it was so emotional, and I've never had tears in a 2-minute silence before. I've always reflected, but I was tearful, and it soon passed because it was a lovely thing. And then we put our bunting out after the 2-minute silence. We waited, and I think 2:45 we were out the front and we got our tables up, and I'd got some wine and Craig had got some beer, and I've got this wine cooler. It's a Union Jack wine cooler.
That's good.
So that was nice, and as people were walking by they did stop and chat, but we all kept the 2 meters distance. That was fine. My niece and her boyfriend walked past as well, so that was lovely.
That's good.
Yes. And then it was the national anthem at 3 o'clock. And then we stayed out the front until 4 o'clock, but we did a barbecue in the back garden. I don't know why. I don't think I'm a prude, but it feels wrong to eat in the front garden. I don't know why.
Yes, I can imagine it. It feels a bit weird with people just walking past looking at you.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right. But to sit and to just have a drink and pass the day and people watch for a bit was fine.
Yeah, it's good.
What about you, David? Did you have any? Because you were working so hard.
Yeah, I had Saturday off. I had to finish off the show on the Friday, so it kind of ate into a lot of the sort of the activities in the morning. One of the problems is that we don't have a front garden, right on the main street, so we're kind of very limited about what you can do on the front. You can sort of stick your head out and look at people and then shut the door again. You kind of very limited on what we can actually do. So you just tend to stay in the back garden anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we did more of the relaxing on the Saturday. Yesterday I was doing editing the interviews for this week, so kind of I had half a day on Friday, so I made the most of it.
Well, I think that's actually good for you, because you are a bit of a workaholic, aren't you?
Yes and no. It's just I just don't like doing nothing. I cannot just sit and. Sorry?
I mean it positively, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
No, I just find that I just can't sit and do nothing. I have to do something, and I think because obviously we knew that there was a lot to do this week because it's the last week, so I wanted to make sure that we had everything all ready by the end of the week, because obviously then once it's done, that's it.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So, and there's obviously with work as well. I had a couple of customers that wanted stuff. I'd got the art tutorial that needs to be out as
Yes.
well. So there was that doing. Had a few technical issues with that, so that sort of took longer than expected. And because it's the art journaling course is out every Monday, so we're actually doing it on a week by week basis. So it's been filmed, edited, and then put out within a 7 day period, and it's got to go through all the different stages to get to that point before it's released. So everything is quite time critical. So I've got to do my bit in the chain before it hands over to other people to do their bit and stuff. So so when you get computer errors halfway through and you've got to start again, it's quite frustrating when you know you've only got so much time to do it.
Yeah, that's tough, actually. It's out of your control as well, isn't it, when things like that go wrong?
I think, just thinking back, I think the longest I've ever had to have a computer working on a program, on a show, was about 13 hours. Fortunately, it worked, but just every once in a while the software just has a glitch and falls over and goes, yep, error, start again.
Yeah, you've got 1 minute to go.
Yeah. I mean, we've been fortunate. This show has been quite smooth when it's come to editing, to get it out. The biggest problem we've had is the internet. That's been the real bugbear, is how slow the internet's been, and seems to have been progressively slower.
Yeah.
As the lockdown has gone on.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So when we started off, I think I was getting about 10 o'clock. I was getting everything done. Now it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. That's had such a dramatic, because obviously I'm getting files from you, I'm downloading them from other places as well. So all the elements are slower, all the different stages. So it has a knock-on effect. So it really pushes the publish time back quite considerably.
Frustrating.
If people are interested, we're talking about between 4 and 8 gigabytes of file sizes. So they're quite hefty sizes. So it does take a while. So yeah, it's been a busy weekend, and then we had all the news from Downing Street to sort of take on board and absorb and stuff. So it's been a busy few days.
Yes, it has indeed.
But on a positive note, I've found out that we're eligible for next year's podcast awards. So you never know, we could be in London at some award, a glittery award, with getting something for all our hard work. You never know. It's always a laugh.
Will there be a red carpet?
I think there'll be a red carpet. We'll all be in dresses. And
can I wear sequins?
You can, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, I doubt very much, but hey, you never know, do you? You never know what the judges are looking for, so it's worth a go.
And my hair will be done.
I was going to say we should have access to hairdressers by then.
Yes, be great.
Well, it's something to look forward to, and it's you do all this work, and you think, oh, okay, we'll submit it anyway.
Yeah,
and
there's no harm in trying.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a review or do an update next year if we get anywhere.
That would be good. And
there's a public vote as well, so of course we'll have to do a podcast to promote the fact that if we do get through to that people have to vote for us.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's next year. We'll
get 5 votes then,
yeah,
David. We'll get 5 votes.
We will, yes. Yeah. I mean, when you compare about some of the production of some of the other podcasts, I mean, I know that we're nowhere in the same league as them, but we don't have I don't think they have the same restrictions as us.
Mm.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So in that case, shall we go on to the news?
Yes, what a good idea.
Seeing as we have such a big story.
Yeah.
The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the start of the exit plan that they've been talking about. Everyone's been demanding something, so they have released an exit strategy, and now everyone's complaining about it because we've given them one and they don't know how to understand it. So what we've done is we've printed off the BBC's list of elements within that, and we'll just go through some of them. Most of them are fairly straightforward. So the main point is, can more people go back to work? So from Wednesday, not today, because it has been amended, because it was thought that this would come into effect today, but it hasn't. So it says from Wednesday, people in England who can't work at home will be actively encouraged to go back to work. But they should still avoid public transport if possible because of social distancing. And the government said it's working on guidance for employers to make workplaces COVID secure as well.
Yes, so David, this point about public transport.
Yeah.
With public transport, it's really important that key workers are able to use public transport before anybody else, really.
Yes. Yeah, that would make sense. After seeing all the photos this morning that were published, where the underground is just absolutely packed. I mean, it looked exactly the same as it was before the lockdown. So, yeah, maybe some kind of restrictions over key workers. They have access. But I don't know how you can control mass public transport.
Well, they're managing to do it abroad. When you have a look at train stations, you can see they've got the spacing already set out on the platforms, so people move forward, and then they board.
But then how do you get around the spacings on board the trains?
They're going to have to make sure it's all set out properly. But the problem is, with London Transport already opening up the underground, they can only do that overnight, can't they? Make sure that all the spacing is clear to everybody.
Yeah, they've not had time to make any adjustments to all the hundreds of trains that they've got running on the lines.
Can you imagine being on one of those trains this morning?
I don't understand why everyone decided to go in this morning, because surely the bosses would have had to be notified. You couldn't have gone through the HR process of recalling everybody within 12 hours and made sure then that the places of work are fit, I say COVID secure. So there's no elements of that. So who is actually going to work? And why are they going back in? It's difficult to actually work out who it's actually affecting and who's actually taking advantage of it, and is everybody that's going in have a necessity to go back in, or are people just wanting to go? Oh well, we're bored, so we're just going to go back to work because it's different from working at home. You've got to look at lots of different aspects of what's going on.
They're all very good questions. They're not ones we can answer.
No. I mean, personally, I've got a job on Saturday, and I must admit I was a bit dubious about whether to actually go, because it involves being outside and working with other people. But we've actually done it in such a way that no one will actually meet up. So we'll all be completely isolated and separate, but we'll all be working together, working around each other. But obviously now with the new restrictions, because that's something that can't be done from home, it has to be done on location. But with social distancing in mind, so it's kind of a weight off my mind, because I know we can go ahead and do this job, but we'll have to do it sensibly and make sure we take all the proper precautions.
You won't be breaking any rules.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't have to worry about, oh, what if someone sees me? And that is quite a big concern as well. That when it's lockdown, but you're obviously still working and you've got to take on work, and customers are adamant they want work. Adamant that they want products. It's difficult when you're in a climate where you have to take. I'm not furloughed. I've got nothing, no other sort of other income coming in, and someone says, "Will you do some work?" It's very difficult to say, "Oh no, please don't." So it was kind of on hold. Kind of, we were reviewing the situation, and we knew something was coming up. So it was a case of, right, now the new regulations come in. Can it work within the guidelines that have been issued? And we think it can.
Well, here's the thing, David. Even prior to the government statement last night, and whatever the statement will be on Wednesday, if you couldn't work from home, you could still go to work.
Yeah.
So actually, nothing's changed. From what was said yesterday, nothing has changed. There was no announcement about garden centres being opened.
There has been talk about it. I don't know. It was no direct thing. It has come up.
Yeah. Apparently that will be made clear on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I actually expected there to be a statement yesterday about that, because we have got the DIY centres opened, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
So I thought that would be there somewhere.
Only some of them are open, and that was part of the trial, just to make sure. And there were lots of restrictions about who can and can't go. And
the trial, that's interesting. You know how you said about Greg's doing a trial and they couldn't? Interesting. Did you know? I think I might have said this already. KFC, they've got their drive-throughs open. Some of them haven't.
Some of them, yeah.
There was a discarded KFC box on the verge.
Yeah, that brings on the biohazard issues.
Yes.
I mean, that's where a lot of the issues are going to be with litter recovery now.
Yes.
That all people who are working in the cleanup crews and stuff, they're going to have full PPE as well. If they're going around cleaning up all the verges and removing litter, you don't know. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration by the councils as well.
It does, doesn't it? It does. But that's one thing I haven't missed.
The place has been tidier. I mean, pollution levels and litter on the whole has been down considerably.
Yes, definitely. And it's been nice.
Yeah, it has. It has been a nice change. And the sky's so clear as well. I mean, if you just go out at night time and you look at the sky when it's been clear, it's just the stars are just so bright. I mean, it's so noticeable how different it is. So it would be nice if we could keep that, but I doubt that lasts very long. Okay, so what they're going to do is they're going to produce a 50-page document on Wednesday outlining all the companies that are affected, or the types of businesses that are affected or can be unlocked as well. So obviously more information is to follow. Regarding schools and universities, they've said that just for England, that they're looking at possibly reopening in stages, but not until the 1st of June at the earliest. They're talking about reception year 1 and year 6 to go back, and I'm assuming that's partly because of exams and any of those that are actually transitioning between schools as well. So they've got the process of being with their classmates as they go to the next schools.
Absolutely. And the year 6 pupils, that makes sense to me. They're also mature enough to understand the severity of the lockdown and what it all means.
Yeah.
But year 1 and reception children, what's the first thing they're going to do when they see their friends? They're going to run up to them and give them a hug.
Yeah, it is
How
difficult.
can you stop that?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, unless they separate the kids into smaller groups over a couple of classrooms, so you have a smaller element, so that. Yeah, I don't know. I know that there are talks going to be carried on with the schools now to try and work out the best way to do it. But at least then they've got that element of bringing it back. But they've already been working with the schools. Have already been open for the last several weeks anyway, by looking after the kids, the school, the key worker kids anyway. So you've got a lot of kids who are already able, who know exactly what's going on. So I think maybe utilising them to sort of mind the younger ones as they're coming in, and just sort of helping reinforce and say, look, these are the rules, this is what we're doing, this is how we do it. Sort of like a buddy system or something like that.
But it is a lot for a 4-year-old.
It is, and it is difficult.
Yeah.
And I know, sort of listening this morning, they're talking about, well, the parents are going to have to be taking the kids to school, so that depends on whether they're allowed out, because not all parents are able to. Then they're going to be congregating outside the school, so you're going to have people mix in, so you're going to have to separate that. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. There are going to be a lot of issues, even just that in that one process. There's going to be a lot of issues just trying to find the best way to move forward.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of, they're interviewing a lot of kids, and a lot of kids want to go. But it's the parents that are saying no. So yeah, it's a difficult time. But you've got to do something, and that's the problem. You end up, you either stay locked down for too long, and then you have problems. If you open too soon, you have problems, but you have a different set of problems. So it's a mess whatever way you do it, and it's not a good time. I mean, there's no point apportioning blame, because it's a situation that's not going to resolve. There is no right way of doing this. It's going to impact society one way or the other. You do one thing, you will get an outcome. You do it another way, you'll get a different outcome, but each one could be equally as bad.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a difficult one. We'll see the main focus on the teaching, getting the pupils back. So it says that at least they've got some time before the summer, because obviously they've moved the exams back, haven't they? So at least then they've got a chance to sort of go through last minute revision and stuff before they actually sit the exams. I think most of the other countries are all in Britain are all on the same line of no schools back before the 1st of June.
Yes.
And they're talking about just following that, sort of limiting class sizes. They're talking about groups attending on different days, which is something that we've talked about before. Redesigning classrooms, and staggering break times as well.
Mm.
So,
and those steps all make sense for an older child, because they can fully cope with that.
Yeah, it is the young ones that is going to be difficult. I don't know how you're going to do it. But then kids can be quite resilient. I think sometimes we do underestimate what children can understand and what they can do.
That's true.
We can't just assume that all kids are not capable of handling. I mean, yes, there are some who have some issues and are not able to to follow instructions. But there are the majority. That's a shame, because that's the majority will probably just get on and do what they're asked to do anyway without any problems. So I think part of the issue is adults not giving the children a chance to actually show that they can actually do it. Because kids are smart.
Oh, they're super smart, aren't they?
They are.
Look at an 18-month-old with an iPad.
Yeah. Next bit is about meeting friends and relatives. New guidelines are saying that two people from different households would be able to meet outdoors in a park as long as they adhere to 2 meters apart. So that's being clarified, because it wasn't made clear yesterday, but they've said, you can have 2 people from 2 different households together that can meet up in a public place as long as they are socially distancing. So as long as it's not a group of 3 or more. Or
yeah, but how is that different to what's happened already? I mean, people haven't specifically, hopefully at least, gone out and met people purposefully from other households.
But we know they have been.
Exactly. When I walk along with my husband and I see family members, we are standing 2 meters apart, but we are speaking to each other. And, after you do your clap for carers, speak to the neighbours.
Yeah.
We've got the distance. I don't see that it's any different than it already is at the moment.
Yeah. As long as people are sensible about it, and it's just as long as there aren't mass gatherings, then it's fine. I mean, we'll point out that they will be increasing the fines for people who are breaking the restrictions.
That's a good
point. Let's see. So, so from Wednesday, people in England will be able to spend more time outdoors for leisure purposes. The emphasis on spending more time out as opposed to just exercising, so it's slightly more relaxed. So they can take even more unlimited amounts of outdoor exercise rather than just once a day. And they're saying that people can sit in parks and play sports with members of their house, the same household. So as a family unit, if you all live together, then you can go and play in the park as long as you're not running around excessively and interfering with other groups and stuff.
Yes. Well, again, when people have been on their daily exercise, they have been allowed to sit already part way through that, haven't they?
They've had, if they were to have a break within their routine, as long as it's not just going to sit in a park for a period of time. So the activity had to outweigh the length of time that they were resting. You couldn't just go and sit on a bench and sunbathe. Whereas now that is being relaxed, and that they are able to do that.
And the virus doesn't spread as much outside, apparently, does it?
It still does. I think because they've shown
if you touch somebody,
it can be airborne as well. If you
Yeah.
cough and sneeze and you're still within a proximity, depending on the way the wind or the air is moving, then it can still pass. Yeah. So, but yeah, you still got to, if it's people from outside your household, then obviously you need to keep distancing, keep your 2 meters distance.
Yes.
Must be followed.
Yes.
The Culture Secretary have said that sports like golf, basketball, tennis, fishing will now be possible for people in the same household. Because I suppose that most of them are all non-contact anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That is good.
I've heard that in America they've started ultimate cage fighting. They've been given the go-ahead to go and or extreme fighting. ECA.
Why?
Yeah,
You know why that is? Donald Trump likes
he does. Yeah,
all the wrestling, doesn't he, and what have you?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. As long as they wear masks, they'll be fine. But that's America. That's not here. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So we also have the introduction of a new scaling system. Now, people are sort of looking at it going, "Oh, I don't understand." But actually, this is the same. It's very similar to the terrorism scales and the UK defence scales, which are, I think there have 3 or 4 levels off the top of my head. I can't remember now. So it still works in the same way. Depending on the level of threat, whether it's a cyber threat or a physical threat from terrorism, you have a low level and you have a high level, and it fluctuates between them, and you adjust accordingly. So this new system for COVID alert between 1 and 5, it's exactly the same system, and you just have to respond the same way. So it's not difficult. It's just getting used to a new system.
Ooh.
But it's stuff that we're doing already. So
I think that was interesting the way Boris was showing it yesterday, because he wanted to say we were at level 3, but we're not yet.
No,
are we? So
the majority are still sort of borderline 4.
Yeah.
I think it's very. It really depends on which area you are in the UK as to where it is. I think some areas are within the 3, some are within the 4, and there's fluctuations. So what we have next is obviously they need to. Garden centres in Wales will open on Monday.
Are they?
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
Decisions are awaited in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Boris Johnson made no mention of garden centres in England, so that's obviously to wait until Wednesday. Some DIY stores, meanwhile, have already opened, but they're accepting credit card payments only and have shorter trading hours. So I think they're just on Sunday hours at the moment.
Right.
So what does it mean for pubs and cafes, restaurants, theatres and cinemas? The government's hope is to reopen at least some of the hospitality industry and other public places in England, but this will happen later rather for shops and schools by July at the earliest. So basically anything like that, they would reassess after the 3 weeks. So I guess they'll reassess in June and then decide in July as well.
I think that's sensible.
It is. And say a lot of it will come from scientific advice, and obviously they'll see how people are behaving. Because obviously, I did like the sort of the strategy. They're saying the way that the sort of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's quite clear. If everything goes according to plan, we do this, and then if we reach this level, then we do this. So at least you've got an idea of how things go, and you can't put dates and times on it because it all depends on how people react. If everybody goes nuts today, as we're going to see, we could end up with another spike within 2 weeks, which will then completely blow everything out. And if everyone's been crammed on tube trains, we're going to get another rise in London. And to be honest, I'm now expecting to see a rise in cases and deaths in London now.
Yeah. Me too, unfortunately. I was shocked by it. It's distressing.
It is. I mean, it can't be pleasant for people already on there when it must be, if you got on and it's quiet and you think, okay, it's fairly quiet, I'm distancing, right? I've got this handled. And then the next stop, some people get in. The next stop, people get in. The next bit. So by the time you're actually in the centre of London, you've got a packed carriage and you can't move and you can't get out. That must be actually terrifying.
It must be.
Because if you thought that you were in for a quiet ride, especially if you're a key worker as well, and you thought, I'm just, I'm off to work as normal, and then just to have thousands of other people descending, I can imagine it's going to be absolutely traumatic for a lot of people.
Absolutely awful. It's terrible.
I mean, it's just little things like, if you're on the underground and then you come off and you've coughed or whatever, and then you're then touching the handrails, and someone else then touches the handrails, and then, so you've got transmission in all sorts of places.
It's horrific, but here's the rub. People are in a situation where I can imagine it's really bad in London because of the cost of living, for example.
Yeah.
Where they are so worried about where their next meal's coming from.
Well, yeah, we talked about this with the homeless, the ones who have
been
making.
Yeah. So it's a case of, do I pay my rent? Do I put food on the table? Or do I save my life?
Yeah.
It's horrible, isn't it? A lot of people might be in catch-22.
Or feel that they're in a catch-22. I mean,
yes.
When you have no end to this, it is difficult. I mean, this is just a small thing. I mean, when all this lockdown happened, I mean, and I lost all my employees, I thought, hindsight, I could have taken those couple of weeks and had a holiday, knowing that all the customers are going to come back. But I didn't know that, so I ended up working really hard, and now all the customers have come back. So now I'm thinking, well, I need to take some time off, which is one of the reasons why we're stopping this. But I couldn't afford to not take time off because I didn't know what was going to happen, and that's the problem, is that you just don't know how this is going to behave. You don't know where the jobs are going to come from, whether there's going to be customers at all. And depending on what kind of business you're in, it can be absolutely devastated, or you can have people lining up because they need to get moving. What has interested me, I've done some looking at the cost of adverts on television, because I just wanted to know, in case any customers wanted to pitch an idea. And surprisingly, it's actually quite cheap in some of the channels. For one advert, it can be sort of tens of pounds, and then in some places, some channels, it can be hundreds of pounds. And then you've got obviously peak time, like the main channels, peak time. It can be like £10,000, £20,000 per advert during the prime times. And it's quite interesting looking at those that are advertising. Now, the one thing I have noticed is that an awful lot of charity adverts are on during the peak time.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, I know how much you're charging or paying for these things. And it's like, one aspect, the charities are going, oh, we've got no money. Can you give us help to bail us out or to help us go on? But then you're still paying £30,000 per advert to get people to pay. And these are adverts on prime time on, these channels. And I'm like, hang on, you could do an advertising campaign on other channels at a fraction of the price, or you could use that money for looking after the staff and the it's a bit of an odd.
That's fascinating, actually, David. I have to say, it's not something I've thought about. There are a lot of charities. They'll say, just pay £2 to save the donkeys and the bears and all sorts. Help the NSPCC. My goodness. And charities have recently been in the news, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, for behaving inappropriately. Oh, they do need to get these policies right, because people know what they're talking about. You know, I hadn't even thought of that one.
Yeah. It was just an observation. I just suddenly saw this advert and I thought, yeah, I wonder. So, having already gone through all the advertising, because I was just like interested. I was like, oh, I mean, the cost of making an advert could be quite expensive, but the actual airing of the advert, I think it's like, just for example, I think something like if you go onto Discovery Channel, middle of the day, it costs you about £10.
Wow.
But obviously,
brilliant.
You're not going to have just one advert. You're going to run a series of adverts. But at a unit cost, it costs you about, and then, I think it was like on Dave or UK Gold or something like that. Then you're talking about £200 or £300, and then you start working your way up to the mainstream, the bigger channels, and the costs go up.
Oh dear, they are good adverts. A lot of them, though. They do get you thinking, don't they?
There are some amazing, and they've brought back a lot of the old adverts as well.
Yeah.
I've just seen a certain. I've got to say, it's Budweiser. It's a Budweiser. It's the one with the.
What's that?
Yeah, it was the three guys all on the couches drinking, having a bird, and it's. But they've modified it to, being in lockdown and stuff. So it's amusing. It's nice use of creativity to bring a message, but using something that is already iconic in its own right.
Oh, that's brilliant! I haven't seen it yet. I look forward to that.
Yeah, there are some very good adverts out there at the moment.
There are, and I do think we should support charities if we can, but they do need to be more sensible. I agree with you.
I think, yeah, it's just because that's the bit that's irked, is the fact that they've gone around and saying, oh, we've got no money, give us lots of money to bail us out, but on the same week they're then pushing out £1,000, tens of thousands or £100,000 of advertising campaigns.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, does that really need to be happening right now? Or could you have done that cheaper, or could you have done it in a different way?
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's everything other than airport, but to be honest, I think that's I don't think that's really going to affect anyone for the next few weeks anyway. But they are changing how they're handling flights at airports.
But I do find that interesting, that the guidelines are for airports, but not ferry ports or train stations or any other way we can get in and out of the country. That's bizarre to me, because whatever they do at an airport, there are loopholes or other ways you can get into the country to avoid going into quarantine. It should be a 360-degree approach, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can get into the UK by lots of different means.
Lots of ways, yeah. And actually, David, I didn't realise until the weekend that UK nationals weren't being asked to quarantine. Or not UK nationals,
but people coming back into the country.
People coming into the country. Yeah. Yes.
And
I thought they were.
No, I knew that was something that they'd relaxed and actually stopped doing, and I'd been following that from various people who had come in, and they said, like, no, some of them have been given a leaflet, and that was all that they've been given. There's been no isolation. I know in China, they get taken away and they get isolated for 2 weeks before, because they were deadly serious about it.
Yeah, and Australia, I know that happened. When my sister came back from Cyprus, they were all tested before they boarded
Yeah.
the aeroplane. So everybody on board was COVID free.
Yeah.
But they had social distancing on board still, the aircraft.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of mixed feelings about being on board planes and probably underground trains as well, because of the way that certainly on the planes the air is recycled. Any form of having lots of people in a confined space is not going to end well.
Yes, absolutely.
Regardless of precautions, unless you give helmets and face masks and breathing apparatus to every single person on board, there is going to be transmission somewhere.
It puts everybody in danger. It puts their staff in danger. It puts the passengers in danger. Puts the airport staff in danger.
Yeah.
Wrong.
But yeah, you get to the point though you got to decide, well, what do we do? How do we move forward? How do people start moving? Is there a need for moving? So yeah, I can imagine it's not a decision I would like to make.
No.
Shall we have the stats?
Yes, that would be interesting. Thank you.
Okay, well, the number of cases worldwide is now over 4 million. It's now 4,200,000. Number of UK cases as of yesterday is 219,183. And the number of deaths is 31,855. So, although that was the smallest increase in deaths since March, I believe, it was in the 200s. But then we do get a dip over the weekends anyway. So we'll see how it goes for the next few days. Just for comparison, for stadium sizes, to handle 31,000, you're looking at Molineux Stadium for Wolverhampton, for Wolverhampton Wanderers FC. That's the size of the stadium we're now looking at.
That's amazing.
So we are now getting up into the premierships.
Yeah.
It's sad that's most of Europe are now just hanging their head in shame, going to like, what's going on? You know, we talked about this with Spain and Italy, and like, you know, utter devastation of these countries. And yet and people just don't seem to get it in this country that this shouldn't be happening.
No.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are generally upset, and they're going, you know, why are we still doing this? Why are we not adhering? And you've got a lot of people who are just like not interested or just completely oblivious to it.
We've discussed this as well, David. There are a lot of people believing wholeheartedly the conspiracy theories as well.
I don't think it's even that. I think it's just, I mean, yes, there are a number of people who are, but even on a study, I think it's something like only 30% of Americans believed in conspiracy theories. So that doesn't take into account the other 60%.
No.
That's not my maths. It was 33% and 66%. So, but yeah, we're looking at 2/3 of the people who don't believe in conspiracies. So what do they believe in? I mean, is this just ignorance? Is this just a case of existential life, that it's going to happen anyway, or whatever the term? I can't remember the term. Is it someone that's fatalist? That's it, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
a fatalist.
Yeah.
Someone who just believes, well, it's just going to happen. And then you've got other people who go, just it's not real. And then you've got other people, it's just, but I need to work and it doesn't matter, we're all going to go. You know, there's so many different ideologies that are out there. You know, and it's sort of, it'd be interesting to sort of get a survey on sort of like what people believe as to why they then are going out and doing all the things that they shouldn't do. You know, what is the rationale?
Yeah. It does make you wonder.
What is interesting, though, that we did have the third highest number of cases in the world. We're now back down to fourth.
Okay. Who's
Russia.
Is it Russia? Yeah.
Russia has just gone straight up the charts. They still only have about 2,000 deaths, but then their case rate is going up and increasing. You know, you're looking at the curve, and the curve is getting steeper and steeper as it goes on, and that will lead to a significant number of deaths to follow.
Mm-hmm.
That's inevitable. You know, they can't have that many and not have the repercussions, or that's if they admit to the deaths.
Yeah.
You know, so it depends on how they handle the figures. But yeah, they've just shot up. I was just looking at the last few days, and they've just jumped levels, you know, at a time. So that's something to worry about as well, because they're either in Europe, or the fact that they're actually bordering with Europe. So even if the number of cases are, you know, it can have a knock-on effect on their neighbours as well.
Yes. They cover such an expanse, don't they?
Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, that's always been the history. When you're looking at pandemics and stuff, you will see one country will go up, and then the next one goes up, and the next one goes up. So it sort of spikes in different places at different times. So yeah, we'll see how that. Well, we won't have, because we won't follow it. But just out of interest, you know, if you want something to do, to just keep an eye on Russia.
No, definitely. Yeah, that is interesting.
And now we will find out what Doris is doing.
Well, Doris hasn't got a message as such today.
Is she not?
She's saying she's thankful to everyone for drawing pictures of her, how they think she looks, and she's looking forward to seeing them all.
Brilliant.
And girls looking forward to judging them.
Excellent.
So we have made Doris's day.
Brilliant. That's good news. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Next bit is our interview. We have an interview today. We have a lady called Tilly Rose, who is a textile artist. A media and textile artist. And I did an interview with her a couple of weeks ago, so we've now got the final interview, which will be played in whole tomorrow. But we will now hear a section of it, about 5-10 minutes of it, just basically talking about one of her latest projects. So we'll hand it over to Tilly now for her interview. Okay, we have Tilly Rose on the line, who is a mixed media artist. Is that right?
Hello there. Yes. Hello there. Yes. So I'm a mixed media textile artist, and I'm a tutor, and I'm also an author. Okay.
And what can you tell us a little bit about your background? You know, sort of where is art your and textiles? Is that your main projects, your main sort of occupation?
Yes, it is now. I have a background in education, working with children with special needs, especially visual impairment. But 15 years ago, I sort of left that career and ventured more into the textiles. And now I teach workshops all over the UK. I've done some TV work. In 2018, I brought out my first book, which is called Stitched Memories, and that's all around telling stories, really, through cloth and thread, capturing memories, capturing everyday snippets of life in various textile projects, and how you can put all your memorabilia that you have, sort of things, hanging around the house and what have you, how they can be used and how important they are to capture all those beautiful oral stories that we take through our family history, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, are you finding, have you got a lot of work on?
No, actually, my work, so literally overnight, it kind of dried up completely overnight, and that was like
Yeah.
15 years worth, gone. So I've taken a couple of weeks to kind of, like everybody, kind of get into that slow pace and work out where we're going. And so I'm looking at different avenues, really. So, yes, work is kind of busy behind the scenes, but not necessarily as it was as such. So, yeah.
Do you have any specific projects that you're working on, sort of near future, that you're sort of hoping to develop? And
yes, I do actually. So when I came to Stony Camp and I brought my 2 mannequins.
yes, I remember them.
So yeah, they kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, really, in amongst the Romans, didn't they? But yeah, so you know that I have a history, my family history. I can kind of trace it back to the 1700s, really. I haven't moved far. Wimbledon, Doddington, Maine, all around there. So I've kind of got the Fens in my DNA.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've kind of, all my projects and all my stories and things that I work on with workshops and stuff are based really from stories, told by my family through, oral stories, really, oral history. So when I brought my book out, and my book is called Stitched Memories, and it's about telling stories with cloth and thread. It's about capturing all those sort of little snippets of ordinary life that sometimes just go by, and we don't pick up on that they're actually the important part. And through that, so a couple of years ago, I really started the idea of actually capturing the stories of a lot of the Fen workers, mainly ladies, who were in the connected to textiles. I wanted, listening to the stories of my aunts and my nan and cousins and second cousins and what have you. I wanted to capture all those ordinary stories that people would be making things for their house or their home, or they were paid as extra money for home working, maybe lace making, and anything like that to earn a few extra pennies for the family.
Yeah.
Or how they decorated, and almost the oral stories that their families had going back in generations. And I know I sort of spoke to Amanda, we've had a keen passion for that for a long time now, and then talking to other people, and I thought, how can I capture all of that? And obviously I love writing, so I really, the end result is putting it all in a book, but before that I wanted to somehow capture that in my type of work, my textile work. So I actually have got down to, I make lots of stitch wraps and textile wraps, and that's just long lengths of cloth. So it's like a visual diary. And I thought, right, this is the time. I've got some time for me where I can't do as much work as I want to do, and all the research that I've been doing on the Fens all over the last 10, 15 years or so, all my little scribbles in my notes, in my books, and all the books I've got, collected. So I'm actually creating a stitch wrap of textiles in the Fens and East Anglia, and how that kind of has gone through the centuries, really. And obviously that's going to probably be a lifetime project, I would imagine. I thought, well, I'll just do a few bits, sort of Victorian, going back a bit further. Well, I've gone right back to Stone Age, really. And that's purely off that visit, at Stony Camp and what have you. But I've been fascinated, and off that, it's like any story. I don't know about you, but if you get a group of people and somebody says something, it goes off at a tangent, and then somebody will add something else, and you think, oh, well, I'll look into that, and I'll look into that, and it's connecting all those Fenland threads in a little textile project, and it's made me sit down. It's made me finally collate all those ideas into one little project. But I actually thought, while while people are sat at home, while people have got the time and probably do have some time on their hands, this is the ideal time to actually say, if you have any memories of your mum or your gran or your aunt or whatever, who, have grown up in the Fens and they've got that real history of the Fens, to capture people's thoughts while, and put them into a project. So that's my mission, really, over the next however many months we're going to be in this situation, and then continue that when we do come out of the end of our tunnel, really continue that into a long-term project. So that's my aim, anyway. How far I'll get is we don't know.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tilly.
All right, my darling. Thank you. That's really good to talk.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, then.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's part of the Tilly Rose interview, and you'll be able to hear the rest of that tomorrow as a separate podcast, so you can enjoy that in a whole, which is a fantastic, thoroughly worth listening to interview. Okay, next one, Life and Lockdown, and our rural roundup. I think we're going to mix them together because we don't have much else.
No. That sounds like a good idea. Do you want me to start, David?
Yeah, because I think you're the only one that's got anything that's relevant today.
Okay, thank you. So, life in lockdown. I have been speaking to companies that have applied for bounce back loans.
Oh, I am.
And I thought I'd cover them just briefly. The best route for application is via the government gateway.
Yeah.
Where you'll find a list of banks administering the loans. There are quite a few, apparently. I think about 15. But the advice that I've been given from those that have applied is it's best to use the bank you bank with. And some of the banks will only administer if you do bank with them. I think NatWest is one that does that.
Okay.
You're able to borrow from £2,000 to £50,000, but no more than 25% of your annual income. So again, it's a good idea to use your own bank because they'll be able to see 12 months worth of income.
They've got your financial history, so they'll see. Yeah.
When you're applying, so I'm just reading my notes here. Okay, so you've got an initial statement to make. So some of the criteria is your business has to have been affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah.
If you make an application and your business hasn't been impacted, and I can't imagine that anybody's business hasn't been in some way, then you can't apply. So you send this statement off, and then within 24 hours you get an application form sent to you from the bank that you've applied with through. And apparently it's 3 pages of A4. So the information that you need is fairly quite straightforward. You do need your company number to hand, and whoever is responsible for administering the bank account, because they'll need to sign for it. Apparently they've got some software set up where you actually sign on the screen. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, we already know that it's for 12 months free of charge. So interest-free loan, 12 months, no payback for 12 months. After that 12 months, you've got 6 years to pay back at 2.5% interest. So it's very low interest rate.
It is, yeah. It's actually very low.
Yeah. And would you believe it's guaranteed by the Exchequer? Okay. Now, I have been told there's no credit scoring done with these applications.
All right, so it won't have an impact on your credit rating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got here, you may be eligible if you're a UK resident with a business or registered charity. Charities can apply for this as well.
Okay.
In the UK. Your business was established before the 1st of March 2020. You can certify that your business has been adversely impacted by coronavirus or COVID-19. You're an existing business banking customer. Now, I am actually looking at NatWest page now, so that is NatWest criteria.
Yep.
You won't be eligible if you already have a coronavirus large business interruption loan or the Bank of England's COVID corporate financing facility. Don't know about those. You're a bank, insurer, reinsurer, but not insurance broker, public sector body, further education establishment, if you're grant funded or state funded school. And you won't be able to apply if your business is subject to collections or collective insolvency proceedings.
Okay.
So basically, if you're running a viable business, you can apply.
Yeah.
And it does sound really favourable, doesn't it?
Mm.
Obviously, even though it's guaranteed by the Exchequer, your business is responsible for paying back the loan.
Yeah, they're just underwriting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then our rural roundup, recycling centres have opened today in Fenland, but they are for essential items only that can't be stored at home. So you can't go down with all the rubbish that you've collected after clearing your home up because you've had time. Not us, David.
No.
So the guidelines are to wash hands before and after visit, as usual. A maximum of 2 adults outside the vehicle only. On-site staff can't assist, and you can only have a limited number of vehicles allowed in at any one time. So there is traffic management going on.
I was going to say that's going to have to be handled that way.
Yes. And no vans or trailers requiring a permit are allowed. Please don't visit the site if anyone in your household is suffering from coronavirus or self-isolating.
Yeah.
So if that applies to you, stay away, please.
Okay. So where can they find those if they want to read through those instructions?
That's a good question. Those instructions are available through Cambridgeshire County Council.
So not FDC, it's Cambridgeshire.
Not FDC, yeah.
Okay.
So their websites or social media pages.
Okay. Excellent. Right, I think that is pretty much the end of the show. I think we've run our slot anyway. We're getting good at time. So this is our penultimate episode. If you've just suddenly joined the podcast and haven't heard any of the others, this is our second last one. Our next one will be on Thursday. That'll be the last one, the last official podcast. We've decided to come to an end for various reasons, partly because it's voluntary. Now life has moved on, we don't have the time to give to make this worthwhile, to keep up the format. We may do the odd one over the next 6 months or so if stuff comes up and there's a demand or there's a need for it. So it won't disappear, but but we will be around, and hopefully we'll maybe utilise this to help other people, other podcasters, give them a leg up as well. So that's it. So Thursday's show is pretty much going to be bring your own games. It's going to be like last day before school holidays. I think it's going to be more reflective. I think it's going to be more about what we've done over the last few weeks, just to see how things have changed Just sort of a comparison between where we were right at the beginning and where we are now, and see how things have changed, how statistics have changed, how the Fenland district has changed as well.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I imagine it has changed quite significantly for quite a lot of people.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit mixed. Happy to see it end in some respects, but also sad to see it end as well. Yeah, it's been quite a big part of our lives for the last few weeks.
It has, hasn't it? It's been a good part.
It has been.
Mm-hmm.
But as we were talking just before the show, that it can be quite grueling sometimes, just wading through pages and pages of such negativity on the press and the websites, the media. Everything is just doom and gloom, or a doom and gloom spin on things by the media. In some ways, trying to make it seem worse than it actually is. If only the media were keeping in line with the government's messages, I think we wouldn't have so much confusion. But that's just my that's my 2 cents worth.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I think for our own sanities, we've decided to have a break.
Are you saying we're sane?
Definitely not. But there must be some element of it somewhere.
Must be, yeah. Oh dear. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
Well, I think you do feel sorry for the journalists that have to deal with this. They've come off the back of Brexit, and then suddenly they're having to cover all this. And as much as, yes, they're actually paid to do, this is their job and their vocation, and this is what they do. It's
yeah.
Even just sort of riding on the coattails of that kind of group. It's been tough, and we're only doing it a couple of times a week. These guys are doing it, day in, day out. It must be tough for them, whether it's a war or whether it's like I say, just the COVID environment, or just anything like this where it becomes very emotional and it affects people's lives. It can be quite traumatic for journalists and news readers and stuff.
Most definitely.
So
yeah, it's a tough old world.
Yeah, but we won't be gone. We'll be back with something else. I'm sure we'll certainly appear and raise our heads, and we'll still have stuff going up onto the group chat as well on Facebook. So don't stop joining the group. We'll keep putting stuff on and keep messaging out as well. And feel free to stick messages on there as well.
Yes.
Let us know how you think this all went, and some of your feedback and thoughts on the show over the last few weeks. So,
yes.
So just like once again, just thank everyone for listening and watching and being part of all this. And we couldn't have done it without the listeners. So have you got any last words before we end?
No, I haven't. I think you put that very nicely.
Thank you. So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye, David. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody, as well.